Welcome to Gold Derby's Q&A panel on the making of Yellowstone. Today, I am delighted to introduce some of the artists working behind the scenes to bring this show to life. Please join me in welcoming stunt coordinator Jason Rodriguez, production designer Cary White, set decorator Carla Curry, costume designer Johnetta Boone, and last but not least, editor Gary D. Roach, ACE. Everyone, I have to say, it is no wonder that Yellowstone is such a blockbuster. The mammoth ratings from season 3 almost doubled to season 4, unbelievably, and it's genuinely become a pop culture success story from coast to coast. So my view is season 4 upped the ante again. It was beautiful to look at and listen to. Characters we care about, action, violence, romance, betrayal, and of course the rageful vengeance that Beth inflicts on Jamie. So I'd like to know from all of you who have worked so hard to bring the show to the screen, what you thought about season 4. Who would like to go first? Anyone?
I'll go first. Okay. I'll go first. I'm known for going first. Season 4 was a lot of fun because we were in COVID, and I think we were one of the first shows back to work, during COVID times. And it became a race to the finish line on this one, as usual, but double down just because of the constraints that were thrown at us because of the COVID situation. I think we were successful in how we handled it and ended up, being able to produce a wonderful product once again and tell our story as we always do. So, season 4 for me will be very memorable just because of the chaotic nature that COVID brought upon us. But it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy, being with my peeps.
Yeah. Carla, don't forget that also besides COVID, we moved from Utah to Montana and had to move all the sets and everything else. So
yes. That was a ton of fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun as well. Kind of
added a little something extra to the production for sure.
Well, guys, and let's also not forget that we also had 1883, the prequel, start with us, season 4, when we did the flashbacks.
Yes, it did.
That was phenomenal.
That was awesome.
It was a total surprise to most of us that, of course, we get the scripts, but just to be able to develop and create and reveal this amazing story, which is the beginning of the Dutton Ranch, basically.
Yeah.
And the family's journey across the country to find this place that they were going to call home. What a phenomenal experience that was all the way around. It was fantastic.
Absolutely.
In the snow.
Yeah. For me, it was, having been on seasons 1 through 4 now, season 4 was so much fun because they seem to get better and better. If Taylor's writing, it never ceases to amaze me, the brilliance of that guy. It's so much fun. The stories get better, the action, the romance, the Jamie thing. I just had so much fun with season 4, and I'm so lucky to work with all of people like you that are so amazing. And it definitely takes a team of so many people to make this show what it is. And we're all kind of behind the scenes, but it takes. Thank you to all of you for this wonderful work and for being involved in this awesome show. It's been an honor to be involved in it.
Well, and Gary, we put it together and we shoot it. And then I'm always astonished at how fabulous it goes together, thanks to you. That's always extremely fun is seeing it all together and seeing the story, because we shoot so much out of order, that it's always so much, just rewarding to see your work in there and have it all come together.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a little bit of a challenge sometimes with, the three cameras going all the time and trying to figure out what Taylor will like best. But I just kind of do what I like best, and then he makes me change it sometimes. But
Oh,
it sure
I
is
think that's what we
fun.
all do.
That happens.
It sure is fun having all those amazing performances, first of all, and then the photography is just so beautiful. There's so much beauty in Yellowstone besides the acting and the writing and everything else. It's just so much fun, and so much fun to put together.
Yeah, what about you? Go ahead.
As a stunt coordinator on season 4, it was great. The first 4 episodes, I think we killed probably 30 or 40 guys and did gunfights and threw people off cliffs, and it was all about revenge, and it was just action, action, action. So I thoroughly enjoyed season 4. It was great to work with Taylor, and Taylor always writes such vivid action, and he and I collaborate really well with it. And I'm a lot like Gary in the editing. I throw him a lot of ideas, and 50 or so % of them will stick. The other ones he'll get rid of. But it's always great doing action with Taylor because he gets so into it.
Yeah, you do an amazing job, Jason. A really amazing job. It's so much fun. Yeah.
Like, any show about or season about vengeance, the stunts are going to be in the spotlight at some point. And I was so looking forward to seeing that. Thinking of Yellowstone and its trajectory over the last 4 seasons, I wonder how, it's an obvious question, but how does it feel to be on a show that is so successful and beloved, and people are really catching up to it? I must admit, I was number 1. I was right there at the beginning, so I'm an OG fan. And now it's actually finally a genuine contender for awards and accolades. Like, it's about bloody time. What do you guys think of that?
I'm talking too much, but I thought season 1, doing season 1 was so different in the way it was shot, where there was just pretty much 2 editors and we were doing all the episodes. We worked together on every episode. I literally after maybe a week told Evan, this show is going to be amazing. This is going to be a contender for awards. So when the first 2 seasons went by without being recognized, basically, the ratings were amazing, which was awesome. But as far as awards go, it didn't get much. But I think now that the 3rd season, I think there was a couple, and I agree. I think that it's just getting better and better and more popular. So I think now's the time. Hopefully.
It's gone. I've worked on all 4 seasons, and it's gone from in the beginning when I would tell people what I did, and I work on a show called Yellowstone, and the first season you'd have to kind of it's with Kevin Costner and kind of explain and on. And by now it's the first 4 season. The first thing you get is I work on Yellowstone. Oh man, I love that show.
Yeah.
I'm just it's became this big.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic actually helped a lot. I think because people got to stream it so much, because they ran out of shows to watch. And I think it helped a lot of shows, but Yellowstone, I think really got its legs because people got to see every single episode from the beginning and got hooked on it. And because it is such a good show, and it draws you in so much,
The thing is, Jason, that was so well put, because it transcends so many demographics. It's amazing when, we're outside of Montana and people that live a regular city life in the big city like, New York or LA, they're just as hooked on the show as the natives to the community that we're filming in, and maybe even more so. And in the beginning, I would hear from people, I'm not really into Westerns. I like sci-fi or action. and I just said, well, just check it out. Just don't judge a book by its cover first, just check it out and see what you think. And then suddenly everyone's binge watching. I cannot tell you how many people have gone from season 1 to the end of season 4 and then back again to watch again to make sure they didn't miss anything. And that's unlike anything that I've actually experienced with viewers, because people will watch a show and then once the show is over, they're kind of done with it. But our audience is, they just continuously go back for more of the same, which says to you that it's a story that's not just riveting and authentic, but it speaks to where people are currently. And then also it's exciting enough to keep them engaged. And that's what we hope for. Engaged in all facets, engaged with the editing, engaged with the set decoration, engaged with the stunts, engaged with the production design, hair. I mean, on all facets, people are just glued to the tube and commenting on every little thing. It's really great.
That is so well said and so true.
Yeah.
Just no accounting for taste.
It's true. No, it's definitely true. I say to my beloved parents all the time, hey, have you seen that new blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, we're watching Yellowstone again. I'm like, okay, no problem. I get it. So I'm going to ask some individual questions. So I'm really curious to just take a bit of a deeper dive into what you all bring to the table. Firstly, Cary and Carla, I really just wanted to congratulate you both on claiming the very first and so far only Emmy nomination for Team Yellowstone last year for the episode going back to Cali alongside your art director, Yvonne Boudreau. That's such an achievement. You guys should be super, super proud of that.
I think we are. There's no doubt about it. We are. I think our attitude on that was like, we hope we broke the ice. We hope we broke the ice, and hopefully that will hold true this award season. So yeah, we're extremely proud. I'm so proud to be working with Cary and Yvonne and the whole team. I mean, it takes a whole village, to do this, as you know. And we have so many talented people from all over the country that, come together and make this all happen. So it's been a wonderful experience creatively. And it's lovely to be, recognized for your work, certainly. So, yeah.
I think that, as we were saying, the numbers were there on the show, but didn't get much love from Hollywood. And then, to get that Emmy nomination last season, it kind of maybe opened the door a little bit. They said, hey, maybe we'll give them a little love, so that was good.
It was good. And then now we've seen the whole cast nominated at the Screen Actors Guild. The show was nominated at the Producers Guild. We're finally starting to see traction, and that's very, very welcome. So speaking more about what you all each bring to the table, Jason, I think an example of the really intricate stunt work on the show is highlighted in the extended sequence in the season 3 finale and the season 4 premiere. As we mentioned, a show about vengeance is going to probably put your work in the spotlight. The Duttons are literally under fire all at once. And I just wonder, when it comes to executing stunts, is it standard to follow a plan precisely, or are you having to be more agile and come up with solutions when things don't go to plan?
Yeah, usually how Taylor and I have kind of worked together is he writes it, then I sit down and I work something out, or I'll even shoot at times previses of the gunfight. Let's say the gunfight in the beginning of season 4, which I'm extremely proud of. It was Taylor set out to want to do it like a feature film gunfight, and I really think we were able to achieve that. And but we sat down, we talked about it. I went out and shot a previs, we rehearsed, and we pretty much go with a certain plan right up until, like Mike Tyson said, until you get hit in the face, and then you change it, So we start with a plan, and then if, the van, when it got hit, was never supposed to end up in the ditch. It was always supposed to stay in the road. And so we had to change some of the choreography. And that's how we kind of do most of the stunts on the show. You go with a plan, but you realize, things are going to happen. And that's why, like, working with Taylor, when he directs the action, he really understands that. And he doesn't freak out when something doesn't go exactly the way it's supposed to. He just adapts. We move forward. We start pitching ideas, and it comes together. We really collaborate well together, and it's worked out great so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, obviously you've got a great history working with some amazing directors, including Clint Eastwood. You're an Oscar nominee. I just wonder though, with the Western genre particularly, does it present any particularly unique opportunities or challenges for editors, particularly when it comes to all the external action shots? Because Yellowstone is a very external show.
I don't think it has challenges as much as, like I said, I think that the way it's shot and Taylor's so precise on what he wants, that putting it together in the editing room and dealing with amazing actors. And one of the nice things about since season 1 also is having Brian Tyler's music available, and which is so amazing. So when you're putting together these action scenes or love scenes or just good drama, we have Brian's music to throw in there for temporary until he rewrites it and does something even more amazing. And so no, I think that the way Taylor, he gets what he wants, and putting it together in the editing room is more fun than anything else. It just really goes together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Shout out to Brian Tyler. I listen to your work when I'm working because it's so brilliant. Johnetta, while Yellowstone is clearly a Western, it's actually not a period drama in the strict sense of a period in history. It's a contemporary drama. So I wonder what the primary challenges are in designing on a contemporary series where you're supporting the story, but in more subtle and nuanced ways.
Yes, so I would say that most of the challenges just come with the concept of having so many people on screen at one time. Because in contemporary dramas, you may not necessarily get that unless people are in uniform. But in our particular world, people are in uniform traditionally, but not technically. So I'll have 12 cowboys on screen at the same time, in addition to a whole room full of 100 additional background cowboys. And then I will have the corporate professional attire within that same world. So it becomes very tricky, when to know how many plaids to use and whether or not to use, how many times I can use blue or things of that nature. So you have to really pay attention with the whole evolution of the independence of each cowboy, as well as the flow of the scenes and the action that's also taking place. Because as we all know, color sets the tone for the mood. So if there are big stunt days, I'm really careful with how to select the colors so that they work with the stunts, for instance. Also, we have amazing sets. So how just everything just blends and morphs and has a level of authenticity that is recognizable. I find that also because a large part of our background and our wranglers that are on working on horseback, they're actual cowboys. So all I have to do is really take a look at who they are and how they interact with the environment. And that sort of dictates and tells a story for me as well. And then we replicate that. So it's quite interesting because we have a very rough and very organic environment with cowboys. But then on the other side, when we're dealing with the professional political world, it's very much regimented, and there's a stereotypical way that politicians interact with their clothing and each other and color palettes and everything. So it's
Yeah.
two different worlds that have to come together seamlessly to create one world, which also supports the story that Taylor is telling. And it's quite remarkable because he tells an amazing story and he almost paints it for us, but he at the same time gives us the opportunity to fill in the colors as we feel they best fit the mood of the environment.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing to be able to have some autonomy in the way you bring the art form to life,
Yes.
but also collaborating with this mensch of a guy,
Yes.
Taylor Sheridan. Carla,
Rob,
yeah.
I was, the more I think about it and answering your question a little better and thinking about all the action that is shot, that's probably the most challenging is that the action stuff and even the horseback riding, the cutting and the slide stops and, all of that stuff. I mean, it's challenging, but a lot of fun because like Johnetta said, those guys that are doing that are some of the best professionals out there. So that just makes it that much more fun.
Yeah, I'll stick with you, Gary, because there's so many highlights to choose from for your work in this season. You edited, I think, 3 of the 10 episodes. I think that's right. So we could talk about the horseback stuff because that is like, I would imagine that would be extremely challenging to make it look as seamless as it does. But I'm actually really curious to know more about the character-driven stuff, particularly Rip, played by Cole Hauser. There's an episode, I think 5, where we see Rip. He's like, on one hand, he's finding purpose teaching Carter, and on the other hand, his relationship with Lloyd is really deteriorating. And so we see both sides of this really complicated man. And I'm just curious to know whether you found those things particularly rewarding in terms of really trying to get to the core of who this guy Rip is.
Those types of scene are something I truly enjoy. As far as, I spend a lot of time really watching every performance and making a decision to get the most from the actors. And the fun part about it, or the easy thing is Rip is so amazing. And when it comes time to be emotional, Cole's he's there. And there's so many of the actors that are that way. I mean, even Kelsey and Luke are work so well together when it comes to the emotional. We had the stuff with Tate that was so dramatic, in their lives, and going through that and capturing their performances along with Rip and Beth. It's just amazing what these actors are doing.
Yeah, it really is. I kind of want to be Rip when I grow older, but anyway, that's a whole other story. Carla, you've been in the industry for decades, and you've been working with Cary for a while now on this show. The production values on Yellowstone are second to none, and I think the show really prides itself on its production value, the way it looks, the way it feels. It feels really lived in to me. It has that quality. I just wonder, what are the tricks of the trade as a set decorator for getting that just right?
I think that is the challenge on every show, is to make sure that you're authentic. On this show particularly, it is something that Taylor knows and writes to, and he demands, and we do too, authenticity in everything that we do. I come from a ranching background, so Taylor and I pretty much instantly had a good shorthand from day one about what he wanted and what he wanted things to look like. And when he talks about different implements or things that he wants, he will call and say, we need 100 pre-foot panels for all of these cutters that are coming in. I know what he's talking about. So that's helpful. Now, working with Cary has been also wonderful experience because he comes from kind of the same background where he is also very authentic in everything that he does. You know, we don't shoot a television show. We do shoot a feature. You know, I think Jason was talking about that in the stunts and everything that the shootouts and everything that look like a feature. This is something that we do every single day, every single scene. You know, we do not think of it as a quote television show. You know, we very much put every effort into making it as big as he writes it and as authentic as he writes it. And I think that's a lot of fun. You know, we do, it's a fast pace. So we have, you know, I said we have a good village, and we have a great village of people working alongside of us in this trench that, you know, facilitate everything that we do. I work with Jason. I work with Johnetta. I work with, you know, everybody, you know, when we start trying to figure out what some of these action scenes are, or what, you know, the costumes are going to be, you know, for a particular scene, and how we need to adapt to that. So, you know, it's a collaborative effort across every department. You know, we all are very much in tune with what everybody's doing, and just trying to bring it all to the screen and put it all in front of the camera. I think that's our challenge every day. And, you know, I think we're succeeding at it.
Absolutely.
You know, I feel like as an art department with Set Deck, and, you know, we take sort of a method approach with it, because we want to get into the character, who they are and where they're coming from, and what it would be like, what their world is like. And just for example, when we had Monica was going crazy living in the house with John Dutton and the lodge there. And so we picked a different place for her. You know, we found this wonderful old Victorian house, redid it. Carla, we didn't want to make it a period place, so Carla kind of did her magic and made it kind of cowboy chic a little bit. But it was such a different world for the Duttons to be in, because we'd seen them in that log environment that's the lodge forever. And it was really kind of nice to shake it up a little bit and have, since Monica was desperate to get out of it, change it.
Yeah, it was so stark, the juxtaposition between this rustic vibe on the Dutton Ranch, and then of course where Monica ends up. By the way, I don't want to embarrass you, Cary, at all, but, like, you know, you're a legend in the Western genre. You've got Emmy nominations for things like, you know, something small like Lonesome Dove. You know, it's no big deal. You know, so I think to have you on a show like this is a bit of a masterstroke, and I'm really glad that you're still on it. That being said, you know, there's questions about certain aspects of what you guys do that I'm actually not really quite sure about. For example, Jason, I'm interested to know, you know, as the coordinator and even as a performer, in the stunt world, when it comes to working within the set and with the actors on Yellowstone, do any of the actors ever get involved in any of the fights or the horse riding, or is there always a clear demarcation between stunt cast and main cast?
In the beginning, earlier on, before I really knew the actors and everything, they got a little more involved. I would involve them a little more in the choreography, or talk to them about it, or they would say things that they don't like or whatever. But now that I know them so well, I know when I start to choreograph a fight or something, that I know what they're going to like to do. I know that Cole likes to do this, and I know that Luke likes to do this. And so there's not as much. They pretty much show up. We'll have a rehearsal or something, or they'll pretty much show up and just do it. We rehearsed the Lloyd and Walker fight with Ryan and with Forey for probably one afternoon, just getting those beats down and everything. And that was an exhausting day for those guys. That was a long day, and we didn't use the doubles very much in that at all.
Wow.
And they fought for a good 4 hours in that deep sand, and I was pretty impressed, especially with Corey. I mean, he really went after it. He was, and was getting his butt kicked through most of it. So
yeah.
But they put their 2 cents in, and definitely they put in what they want. But thankfully, for working with them for 4 years, I know already kind of what they like and what they don't like, and so I'm able to work at it from there.
Yeah, by the way, that scene between Ryan and Lloyd, or Walker and Lloyd, in the pen, like, far out. That's incredible work on every level. And then, of course, when Rip has to intervene and kind of makes, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, and then the look on Cole House's face, like, I just think that should be the clip that they show at the Emmys when the show's nominated for best drama.
You really feel for Lloyd, but you really feel for Rip when he
yeah. Like, that is next level. And as Carla said, and I hear this a lot about prestige drama, you're doing a feature film every week, but not on the pace of the feature film. So I just don't know how you manage to make it work, but you're probably all extremely exhausted, which is why you need a bit of a hiatus to kind of recoup. But it's fascinating. Another question I have about things that I don't quite understand as a layperson, Gary, a lot of people may not quite get it, that maybe a daily challenge of an editor in post-production is where you're stuck with a certain amount of coverage, and in a particular scene, maybe you don't have the shot you need. What happens in that instance, particularly on Yellowstone?
Usually, I usually try to watch what they shot the day after they shoot it. So I'm always I'm pretty good at, if I think they missed something, mentioning it to Taylor, which very rarely happens. So I think in that case, in those instances where you might be missing something or you can't get around, I'm kind of a fanatic about mismatches and making sure everything matches. And Taylor is more concerned about the performances and the action and all of that rather than mismatches. So as an editor, I probably just get wrapped up in that. But it seems like there's always a solution with this great shooting and great acting. There seems to always be around the problems.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. The other thing I was wondering about a show like this with the detail, this is probably more a question for Carla and Johnetta, is continuity. And this is an issue that happens on every show and every film. But there's so many little details that we're noticing in the set decoration and in what the characters are wearing. And I'm curious to know whether that's ever an issue on Yellowstone when you've got horses and cattle and non-professional actors like cowboys. And is that ever a problem or an issue on Yellowstone? Maybe I'll go to you first, Carla.
I would say we are always fighting that battle, always. We have a team on set that are specifically there to assist the daily set deck issues about moving things and moving things back, and that we have a huge library of photos from every single set all the way back to season 1, because sometimes we flash back, and so we have an extensive library of continuity that we're constantly referring to. And yeah, it's hard to keep up with it. It really is, especially on season 4. During COVID, we also realized that, and the move was, we moved from Utah, as Cary said, from Utah to Montana, and we had to move all the sets and everything, the whole company had to move. And we realized quite early that everything wasn't going to be ready when they wanted to start shooting on day one. And so that threw the schedule into some chaoticness. And, so again, when you're running that fast, just trying to stay ahead, yeah, there's a good bit of trying to keep up with the continuity on it. And I'm sure Johnetta can speak to that as well.
It's continuity on every show is always a challenge because there's so many moving parts, and it's live action with live people. So there's always an error that takes place because we're dealing with humans and nobody's perfect. So someone may lose their gloves or put their jacket down and forget where they put it, or it's just so many different opportunities to challenge our approach to keeping all the details. The other thing I was going to say, Robert, earlier is that we really are, I would say that we're all a ranch family because together we're all the glue to each other. We spend so much time together relating and we value each other tremendously. So if there's ever a moment where something even looks like it may slide by even remotely or for a second, there's someone from another team that is right there to support us in bringing it back together. And that's the beauty of the relationships that are being built on set. Most of us have been together. I came on board season 2, and some of us others came on a little bit later as well. But we all just come together so seamlessly as one big family and bring each a plate to the table that when we forget a biscuit, the other person said, "Oh, I have some right here for you." And that happens often. The set decoration is so incredible and it matches the costumes so perfectly that if someone dropped a glove, I could easily go to Carla or someone in set deck and say, "Do you guys have any gloves?" And they're like, "Yeah, here you go." So, and that's the world in which we live in. And it happens with hair and makeup as well. We all dove in, for instance, with Kelly when we ended season 3 and came to that very explosive beginning of season 4. Hair and makeup and costumes all work together to create that visual. So we love it. And then when we get with stunts, it's Jason and Jordan, who are both Jays, and they are both there. We're all there together building the world, and with the special effects guys as well. It's just, we all just take the moving parts and build the world together. And I think that really speaks to the authenticity of the show, because authentically, off camera, all the people behind the scenes are working together to make this beautiful picture.
Yeah, and see, that is true of any team in
Yes.
any profession, and
Yes.
it always comes from the top. And Taylor Sheridan, he's building this empire. You mentioned earlier 1883. There's 6666 coming up, and there's all kinds of things. And I just want to see more from him. He's a genius. My final question, because we do have to wrap up, we're running out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you guys for hours. I find it remarkable in this day and age where everything is so polarized and so divided along political and ideological lines, that this is one of the very few shows that traverses that whole spectrum from coast to coast and right in the middle. And I'm just wondering what you think about how this show it seems to just really appeal to everybody. We've mentioned it, I think Johnetta, you mentioned it earlier about how people in the big cities love it, people overseas love it. It doesn't matter where you're from and what you believe in politically. This show is great because it's great. What do you think, Cary, for example? Cary, you've been around for a while, you've worked in other Westerns, but this show's special, isn't it?
Oh, I think Taylor walks a fine line with his politics on this show. It's he does not want to offend people one way or the other, and with a show like this, it can be a little tricky. We have all kind of bad guys in this show, and you could make some political references are to him occasionally, but I think Taylor's pretty careful about all that.
I think Taylor traverses it so well, and that's why it speaks to so many people, is they get a break from day-to-day politics and division that we have in the country and stuff. And we get to just, I mean, Yellowstone, if you break it down, is ultimately pretty easy. It's John Dutton has this kingdom and he wants to keep it. And that's basically the story. And he has all these people helping him keep it. And Taylor keeps it, while it's complicated in some ways, but it's simple in its essence. And I think he just avoids all of that other stuff that's happening outside the world altogether. And I think that what makes it resonate with people is they can, just enjoy a story.
And let's face it, you put Kevin Costner
in a cowboy
in a
hat.
Western,
yeah,
with action and horse riding, and you can't go wrong. It was pure genius, and Kevin's amazing, and the show is just it's so exciting that it's doing so well. But it's because you have Kevin Costner, you have a Western, you have action, you have horseback riding. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, I think it also is that, this is such a different venue than so many things on television. I know there's a lot of more Westerns coming in, but, for the people that are in the cities and overseas who have never seen this, there's always been a romantic picture of the West. And I think, it's a fascination with things that you don't know much about, and we blow it up. We expose everything, so you get to see and hopefully want to be there, want to be a participant in this world, that he's created. So, I think that's part of the fascination, is that it's something entirely different and people have really fallen in love with it, which I'm proud.
It's also really full of compassion. He's crossing all demographics. He is keeping all the relationships pure. You've got people loving each other that are supposed to be hating each other. You've got people shooting each other that are supposed to be taking up for each other. I mean, there's all these different environments that are happening, which are totally surprising to most people. Look at the relationship between Teeter and Colby, who you can barely understand what she's saying,
So true.
But there he was, rescuing her, and the relationship developed there. And so it's just so pure. I mean, look at Kelly and Carter. It's just, or Beth and Carter. It's just so dynamic how magnetic the relationships are. Everyone would want to hate Beth as much as possible, but everyone loves Beth and Rip. So it's just, it's just so pure and so inviting and so rich and so dynamic and so exciting. So it's very visceral. And that's the reason why it transcends all oceans and all time zones and all cultures, whether it's Western or European or American, or look, quite honestly, you look at the runway shows in Europe and everyone's toting a cowboy hat or a fringe jacket or cowboy boots. It's insane. I mean, it's just really impacted everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Forget about red state, blue state. As John Dutton once said to Casey, his favorite son, the one constant in life, you build something worth having, someone's going to want to try to take it.
Yes.
And on that note, I really appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for your time. I look forward to season 5. Will you hurry up and make it so we can watch it? Thanks again. Good luck this Emmy season. We are really rooting for you. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.